Smash Bros. Director Masahiro Sakurai has a regular column in Famitsu magazine where he talks about pretty much anything. But of course, when he is working on a game, the topics tend to lean towards that game, and the most recent article has come out in which he talks about the latest update to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, as well as some information on the online aspects. So in this video, I want to cover that because I used to cover them a lot when we were leading up to Smash Ultimate, and this one is particularly interesting, so I wanted to talk about it. And before I start, I want to thank PushDustin and Sephazon for splitting the work and translating this article so that us English-speaking players could enjoy what Sakurai has to say. So the article starts off talking about the August 5th update, which was the introduction of Small Battlefield as well as some online improvements. And Sakurai actually starts off talking about Small Battlefield. He says that while Normal Battlefield is often used in 1v1 play, it was originally designed and tested with 4 players in mind, and so the proportions of the stage sort of match this. Battlefield is slightly tall and slightly wide to sort of accommodate for a 4-player skirmish. So they went ahead and created Small Battlefield specifically for 1v1 style games, and it basically just removes the middle platform and brings the remaining 2 platforms slightly closer together. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like we are going to get a Small Battlefield option for every stage in a future update, because Sakurai said it would have been impossible to make 100 of those style stages, but the Smash team still wanted to add Small Battlefield as a single stage option. And honestly, I'm okay with that. I mean, in an ideal world, we'd see Small Battlefield forms for every stage, but I can see why they didn't do that. So, you know, whatever, I think Small Battlefield is still pretty cool on its own. And of course, another new change that was added in this update is that on all 3 Battlefield stages, as well as Final Destination, you can now choose from any of the songs that exist in the game, which is over 1,000. It's pretty insane. Of course, this is a huge change because before you could only play Smash-related songs on those stages, so it had to be a song originally written for Smash, so menu themes, you know, specific Battlefield or Final Destination themes, those were only playable. Now you can play Megalovania or the Supreme Ring-a-Ding. But then the second half of the article talks about matchmaking and the online experience. So first, Sakurai says that a lot of attention was put into the input delay during a 1v1 match. They focus hard on making sure that the input delay was very low, but he says that as a side effect, sometimes when there's a delay in communication, the match may drop. I'm unsure if he means that it will entirely drop, as in you will be kicked from the game, or if the connection will basically pause and wait to reconnect. He then says that some small adjustments to matchmaking and other optimizations are still being tweaked, which, you know, is something that we have seen. Outside of this update, I can remember back during the beginning of Ultimate's life cycle where you were less likely to find a player who had the same rule set as you. And then they released an update where that adjusted and, for the most part, pretty much fixed it. You were able to always find somebody who had the same rule set as you. But Sakurai then says that specific details of these different tweaks and updates have not been revealed, and they are largely client-side, and therefore apparently there is a limit to how much they can improve. And I know this is meant to be a general discussion because most of the player base is not interested in the actual technology and mechanics of, you know, improving networking, but I would genuinely be interested in, you know, a more detailed reasoning as to why things are client-side, why things are limited in the amount that they can be improved. I would be really interested in that. He then states that Mr. Harada, the producer of Tekken, posted on Twitter that 60% of home console gamers use Wi-Fi. And then Sakurai notes that for the Switch, it's probably more than 60%. And this is 100% believable for 2 reasons. Number 1 is that the Switch, of course, is half handheld, half home console. And so if someone is playing handheld, they automatically have to be playing on Wi-Fi. And the second is, of course, that the Switch does not come with an Ethernet adapter in the dock, and so you need to make a separate purchase to buy a USB Ethernet adapter. And at that point, most people aren't going to do that, and so they are going to be playing on Wi-Fi while docked. And then Sakurai says that the internet connections across the world may not necessarily be as fast as Japan's. And out of curiosity, I looked up what Japan's average internet speed is, and it said it's about 100 megabits per second. Now, America's is about 115 megabits per second, but I suspect that Japan is probably more consistent with their internet. Whereas with America, while the average is 115 megabits per second, there are areas that have much faster speeds than that, and there are areas that have much slower speeds than that, so the average doesn't necessarily reflect every consumer. He then says that making adjustments and improvements has its own set of risks with regards to online play, but he also says that internet speeds have seen improvements in recent years, and Sakurai says that he will review and adapt accordingly. He then mentions that there are often requests to display when a player is using Wi-Fi, but it's not possible to refuse a player based on their connection type. Now, I'm going to assume that what this is saying is that they don't want players to not be able to play online because they are using a Wi-Fi connection. For example, with Mario Tennis Aces, you could see if someone was playing on Wi-Fi basically by seeing how strong their connection was, and you were able to refuse the match if you didn't want to play on that kind of a connection. So it's very possible that the reason that they don't display that is because they don't want players to be consistently backed out on because they're playing on Wi-Fi or they have a 4-bar out of 5-bar or what have you. And I can see both sides. I mean, you don't want a Wi-Fi player to not be able to play online because they're playing Wi-Fi, but on the other hand, you're now making it so that everybody runs the risk of playing against an absolutely horrendous wireless, low frame rate player, and it just ends up not being super fun. And then he talks about a big one. He actually researched a similar feature to rollback netcode back when the game was being developed, and he decided against it as, quote, side effects were substantial. And this is where I really wish he would get a bit more specific, and again, I get why, but I just would be curious what he means by these side effects. Is it that matches would drop because the connections were so bad? Is it that the Switch hardware isn't super great and so it ended up making the gameplay suffer? For those who don't know, rollback is the preferred netcode for fighting games. A lot of fighting games have it, and you may have heard the term come up recently because an actual build of Dolphin for Super Smash Bros. Melee came out that implemented rollback online. It basically makes it so the game on your end is smoother, and the game basically catches itself up if the connection drops very briefly. Overall, it is the preferred way to play a 1v1 in some kind of online fighting game, but I wonder if the free-for-all aspect of online is the reason that they didn't want to implement rollback. And then Sakurai ends off the article by saying that Smash Ultimate has exceeded 20 million sales, which is honestly amazing. That is a huge accomplishment for the game. That's over 7 million units more than Super Smash Bros. Brawl sold, which is the second best-selling Smash game ever, so that is truly an accomplishment. And then he ends on a positive note saying that he will do his best to make all possible improvements and adjustments that he can to the game. And that concludes this Sakurai column, and I'm genuinely curious what some of the more technical details are on some of the reasons they couldn't implement rollback and why improvements need to be limited because they're client-side. As a sort of technical person, it very much interests me. I can understand why the general audience doesn't care. I mean, they just care that their game goes smoothly, but I genuinely am curious on the technology side of it, and I wish that we could have some more information. It is a shame we don't have rollback in the game. I've been playing a lot of rollback Melee recently, and then when I switch to Ultimate, I can definitely feel a difference, and it really is upsetting, but, I mean, what can you do? I can't magic up rollback for the game, so. But that's it for this column. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace out. Have an awesome day.
というところだと思います。